Oh dear, Pika. Give a guy a heads up, please. Hey there. Welcome back. Once again, it is time for the golden age of DC Comics, 365 days, where I take a beloved hardcover coffee table book given to me about 2 decades ago by one of my best friends. It has been surfing my coffee table ever since, and provided me with a constant source of comic book shop style conversation. The kind I wish to recreate with you here daily, right now, yesterday, today, tomorrow, maybe even next week and the year after that. And after that, let's keep showing up and talking about comic books. If you love comic books as much as I do, you are in the right place at the right time. Turn on those notifications. Eventually, you will learn how to tell time. You will start to make the association that, hey, it's 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern. Let's talk comic books. Maybe somewhat Pavlovian. Let's ring that bell. I use this book for its intended purpose. It's a 365 days book. We're going to open up to today's date, which is December the 2nd. We're going to look at some comic book art of an antediluvian age. We're going to read the blurb, and then we're going to talk about comic books. And we're going to talk about comic books every day for the rest of the year. That's right. This is a 2004 Abrams press publication, written and curated, and it's well loved by Les Daniels, Chip Kidd, and Geoff Spear. Oh, this copy has taken a beating over time, over these past 20 years. You can see it's taped up corners. I mean, when I inherited this, it was cracked. The cover's cracked. The binding is about to fly off. I got to be really careful with this book going forward. And I can always use the link that's in the description to the Amazon page to get myself a backup copy, or to replace this when this inevitably entropy kicks in and it's time to part ways with this wonderful book. I love this book. I love books. I really do. I have all my life. Books are awesome. And you are too. I hope that you are clobbering your problems and not being clobbered by them. The golden age of DC Comics runs between 1938 and 1955. The silver age between 1956 and 1970. The bronze age, I'm a bronze age baby myself, between 1970 and 1984 or 5. And then begins the copper age. I get these definitions and standards from the glossary of the Overstreet Comic Book Price Guide. It's a great resource. Again, description, link, Amazon page. Get your own. That's great. I learned so much making this show. I might have started saying something about masterhood. I'm a chef. I have a muscle memory. I have a gnosis, a love. And being a comic book fan is a lot like that. My profession, my trade, and my hobby are like yin and yang. I'm always going to be a student to my craft. I'm always going to be a student to my niche genre love of comic books. I've learned so much, and I'm continually learning. And so maybe masterhood is an admission that you've gotten to a place where you can teach. But guess what? You are always going to be a student. I love that. I love the yin and yang of that. I love the Jedi and Sith of that. I love just the whole kit and caboodle. I hope you do too. All right. This is story and art by Jack Cole from Plastic Man number 21, January of 1950. 2 panels of sequential art telling a story. And we have the fantastic character of Plastic Man, who is able to bend and stretch his body and even mimic other real-life objects that he can see. And he's a detective, too. A trail of spilt salt, and it seems to lead into this basement. Aha! There's the missing sack. The thief must have dropped it in here. And something inside the sack goes, like as a maybe a burp, you know. And so there's Plastic Man. We can see him stretching his body and getting in between the crack of the door. And impressive, too, that he's getting through the doorknob and the lock. He must be reforming his face and head immediately after that, too. I mean, but yeah, I mean, look at we have a light source. Those shadows are in their correct places. Isn't that cool? I mean, in one panel to the other, telling a story. What do we know? Well, through the dialogue, we know that there's been some stolen salt, and that Plastic Man's on the case, and he's tracking it down, and he's literally following a trail through locked doors. Indeed. And now he's going to find out what happened with the bag of missing salt. Sure. I mean, that's simple storytelling. And you can substitute that bag of salt for anything. Jewels, money, a kidnapping victim. It's always cui bono. Who profits? Who profits from this? Why was the salt missing? Whoever needed it that badly. It's always that kind of simple when it comes to comic book detective work. And that's where I got this filter of life. It's like, cui bono, who profits? What matters most? Follow the money. Follow the trail of salt. Let's read the blurb. It's December the 2nd. Plastic Man's on the trail of an alien with a lust for salt. But the plot is less important than the pictures, as Jack Cole's wild imagination turns every panel into a sight gag. The hero's neck doesn't really need to follow the shape of every step on the stairway, nor does his head need to take quite so many turns to slip through the crack in a door. But funnier is better, and after all, we know who's going to come out on top. Indeed, let's look at the art once again. Yeah, he doesn't. But yeah, that's comedic effect. That's cute. This is a funny book. It's meant to, oh, look at that. That's fun. It's funny. Indeed, I think so. And but I wanted to spend a minute talking about one of Plastic Man's Silver Age counterparts. Plastic Man was Quality Comics, which gets bought out by DC Comics in the late. I think the late 40s, early 50s. Let's look that up real quick. Pika, where are our notes? Quality Comics, Plastic Man. Let's look at Plastic Man. It's Plastic Man Day. But we're going to talk about very, very close... Not a replacement, not a Silver Age replacement of a... There's just a different character. He was Quality Comics. He first appeared in Police Comics #1, August of 1941. He was one of Quality Comics' signature... I'm reading this from, you guessed it, the Wiki! All right, one of Quality Comics' signature characters during the golden age of comic books. When Quality Comics was shut down in 1956, DC Comics acquired many of its characters, integrating Plastic Man into the mainstream DC universe and giving him a short-lived series in the 1960s. He also had a cartoon that ran from 1979 to 1981. And I was a kid during that time, between 8 and 11 years old. It was meant for Saturday morning cartoons, being at that age. That is the age of you got rug burns on your knees because you were just like getting too close to the TV and you were excited that the Super Friends were on. Stuff like that. Or the top of your mouth is ripped apart because you've been eating Captain Crunch all morning. Exactly. Like Saturday mornings. But yeah, so DC Comics owned Plastic Man by 1956 here. So... who is the elongated man and why is he? You got Plastic Man. Who's the elongated man? I'm elongated. Man, who are you? I mean, that comes from the Flash TV show and how Ralph Dibny got stuck with the name Elongated Man. A TV reporter asks Ralph, it's in the Flash TV show, the CW, like, hey, I'm elongated, man. And they, of course, they drop the comma between elongated and man, and therefore it becomes capital E, capital M, and that's how he got his his superhero code name in that specific show. I always thought that was really funny and very clever. I liked that Flash show for a few seasons. But elongated man, because there's not yet another stretchy hero over at Marvel Comics, and they have it there. So we have Plastic Man he's been around since 1941, and he's now DC Comics since 1956. Yet, in The Flash, number 112, in February 25th of 1960, was the first appearance of Randolph Ralph Dibny and the Elongated Man. Elongated Man was a new supporting character for The Flash, and it was created by Julius Schwartz, the editor at the time, only because he had not realized that Plastic Man was available to him when DC obtained the rights along other quality comics properties. That's funny. So Ralph drinks this. He was as a teenager. Ralph Dibny was fascinated by contortionists, or people who displayed feats of agility and suppleness. Gymnasts, yogis. He learned that all the bodybenders he spoke with drank a popular soda called Gin Gold. Ralph set out to learn the chemistry and developed a super concentrated extract of the rare jingo fruit of the Yucatan, which gave him his elasticity. And yeah, so that's the whole thing. Like, it was kind of like Our Man, you needed to take the agent, the chemical agent, in order for the powers to kick in. And I think eventually his powers became permanent, and he's been, I don't even know if he's alive in current year. I'm not sure. They were ghosts for a while. See, what happened was early in the 21st century, comics started getting, we're dealing with the darkness that they inherited from the 80s. So you're running on the darkness and gritty tales from about 1986 onward, from Watchmen, Dark Knight Returns onward. And so Ralph Dibny, the Elongated Man, and his wife Susan became focal points of the 2004 7-issue crisis comic called Identity Crisis. Written by Brad Meltzer, drawn by Mags Morales, and exceptionally great art in that. And it was a decidedly adult tale about an elongated man and his wife Sue. And but Ralph and Sue were like one of the best married couples in comic books. You had a husband-wife team who were sleuthing. Like, Sue was the heiress to to her family's fortune. So like they had to work. She was so that was what they did, was they solved supercrime as that was just what their story. I mean, like, Ralph didn't have a job. Ralph married, and maybe they also could have been. I'm catching whiffs of the Thin Man. The Thin Man was this popular tale about some New York socialites, and so this the man marries very well, and to some kind of rich debutante, and so but they do is that they just travel, and everywhere that they go, they end up solving whatever case happens, and the happenstance of Nick and Nora Charles showing up. And like, oh, there's a murderer, and like, so Nick Charles is a legendary, like, kind of like streetwise tough guy, and Nora Charles, his wife, is this New York socialite, and many years his junior, and they're this wonderful power couple, quippy, and the banter. It's called The Thin Man. There was a series of movies in the 1930s, and so Ralph and his wife Sue have that Nick and Nora Charles archetype to build from. Yet now with superpowers. So come 2004's Identity Crisis, we've done something called retconning. We've retroactively adjusted the continuity by inserting a new tale into the past, where these past events matter in the now. So back in the satellite days of the Justice League of America, the quote-unquote Super Friends days, that Dr. Light, the villain, made it aboard the Super Friends satellite, while Sue Dibney was up there alone, just like, she could, because Ralph, the elongated man, was part of the team, and she could just come and go as she pleased. And she was horribly assaulted by Dr. Light. And then the JLA find that. They stopped the assault, and they did something called a mind wipe. They messed with Dr. Light's personality. And so that's what made him a bumbling buffoon, worthy of fighting the Teen Titans regularly. That he used to be a bit more evil and a bit more cunning. And then they magically lobotomized Dr. Fate. And then they bring it into the quote-unquote present, where hijinks ensuing, consequences, the karma of that action of the good guys making really hard choices in order to protect maybe a lie and maybe of something that they did that was very morally questionable. And it started, with unfortunately Sue dies. Sue's the murder victim, and so the first suspect is Dr. Light, and it goes from there, and it just unfolds, and it's pretty decent. I liked the story, and it was new when I got back into comic books in the early 21st century. In 2002, 2003, 2001 was when I came back. They had these Michael Turner covers for the floppies of Identity Crisis. I still have all the floppies, and because it was good. It was what was being served at the time, but it was really good superhero stories. Yet in the 52 weekly, Ralph dies, and that's in continuity. And I'm trying to figure out, they're New 52. There is a New 52, Ralph Dibney, and I wonder how that falls into Rebirth. If there is a if there's a Rebirth, elongated man, especially Sue, are they? I should be asking this on one of the shows. I'm gonna, but I'd like to know more. Who knows what's going on with Ralph Dibney, the elongated man, and his lovely wife Sue, one of my favorite characters? Enlighten me. You're part of this conversation. Let me know. Are you reading DC Comics, and have you seen my old friends lately? Are they getting along? Are they still together? Has anyone been swapped for modernity's sake? It happens. I mean, Iris West is the wife of the Flash, and she's been Caucasian since the 1950s. Yet the TV show, she's a woman of color, and in the movies, she's a woman of color as well. So I mean, don't you think that the next reboot, they're gonna follow suit and make that happen as well? I don't know. I mean, part of the fun about being a comic book fan is thinking like an editor and anticipating what's coming next. And if you're so invested into the characters and into the serial and how the next new uniform is going to look, if it's going to be good or bad or not, or how badly they're tampering with our beloved comic book characters. So I'm wondering, Elongated Man and Sue Dibney, they've been a fallow IP for a while, but are they current? Let me know in the comment section. Thank you so very much for this conversation, the gift of your conversation and showing up today. We've been talking about comic books, and we're going to talk about comic books, you guessed it, every day for the rest of the year. So tune in tomorrow, 3 p.m. U.S. Eastern, and we'll find out who we're talking about when we turn the page tomorrow. Please like and subscribe. Tell a friend. Bring some company. There's plenty of room at this coffee table of ours. We talk about comic books daily. We make daily content here. Also, we make regular content. I'm a professional chef. I make cooking videos about techniques. And usually my soup videos are pretty popular, I hear. Let's see. I also make a lot of content about spirituality, gratitude, and purpose. I'm an ordained minister, an amateur theologian, an internet ordained minister. I mean, that's how seriously you should take it. That's how seriously I take it. But I'm a spiritual guy. And I have noticed the transformative power of the gratitude list. And I wanted to share that with you too. So tune in if any of it interests you. Tune in and be part of it. Thank you so very much. God bless. Namaste. Good luck. And we will see you again tomorrow in those funny pages. Thank you. Bye-bye.